Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Slate Thursday Sports Edition. No Reed T. Fowler. Who knows what he's doing at this point in time? But I'm here, Adam Kaufman. I'm always here on Thursday. But a special treat is we have doubled up. We don't have Reed, but we do have two. We have Jeff Ulrich and Matt Meiselman, who bring just different kinds of expertise, but plenty of it on the surface and deep into the analytics as well. Great to see you both, Matt, Jeff. How are you?
Pretty good.
Great.
Ready to talk some all sorts of sports, right? We got everything tonight.
Listen, you're rated. Yeah, you're ready to talk whatever it is that we're going to talk about. I'm going to give our video a little retweet too. Hopefully get a few more eyeballs on this sucker here with us. Let's begin with NFL, guys, because obviously it is NFL training camps right now. We're already into the preseason. Regular season is rapidly approaching. I know for a lot of people out there, especially when you're watching these preseason products, you can't get here soon enough. But we have news, real news coming out of the preseason. No, I'm not talking about Tom Brady ghosting the Buccaneers. I am talking about Deshaun Watson. It's no longer a 6-game ban. It's not going to be a year-long ban. It is an 11-game suspension. It is done. It is etched in stone. There's no more debate. There's no more discussion of the will he, won't he, what are they going to do? 11-game suspension for Deshaun Watson, the very, very highly paid Jeff Ulrich Deshaun Watson, who is going to miss the first, almost 3/4 of this season here. What does that mean, obviously, for Cleveland and, first and foremost at the quarterback position?
Yeah, I mean, like the Browns, let's just look at it straight up from an odds perspective. I mean, the Browns before this, when the first news that Watson was going to get suspended, I think, 6 games, the Browns were almost equal with the Bengals for the division winner for the AFC North. The Bengals were up plus 210. The Browns were up plus 230. If I'm remembering that correct. We've moved today. The Bengals are at plus 170. The Browns are at plus 380. And I said when they came that close, I mean, my take was, why are the Bengals this is the team that made the Super Bowl? They're bringing back Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. They've improved their offensive line. I get that the Browns have talent, but with all the things swirling and all the things that could go wrong, that move made no sense to me. Now your opportunity to get the Bengals at over plus 200 is gone. The Browns at plus 380. They're going to have to hang with Jacoby Brissett. They've got a really easy start to the season, and then it's just like a murderer's row for 6 games, and it's going to be Brissett the whole way. So, all the different angles, we can talk about this, but the Browns are a team where once this appeal started, I was just kind of out, and I'll keep that. If they can come somehow, have a small winning record before Watson gets back, I guess it could happen, but tough division, tough schedule. And I think that the Browns are more of a 2023 story right now for me.
What he's missing, obviously, is at Carolina, against the Jets at home, the Steelers at home as well, at Atlanta versus the Chargers and the Patriots, at Baltimore versus the Bengals. So one of those 2 meetings. Then you got the bye week in week 9 for Cleveland, and then a couple more at Miami and at Buffalo. So he's going to get Tom Brady, presumably, and the Buccaneers in his season debut, his Cleveland debut. But I guess I wonder here, Matt, and we don't know. We've got time. There are obviously some questions around the league right now. Do they have to live with Jacoby Brissett? And what I mean by that is, I don't know, Jimmy Garoppolo, for example, or somebody else. I know Brissett has been a starter in the NFL. He started for the Colts, but that's not your best option. It's just your in-house option.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there are too many guys available that are an upgrade. Brissett is an average backup quarterback. He can step in and be a below average starter. He's not going to kill the team. He's also not very good. So this probably makes the Browns just a below average team overall. I think to Jeff's point about the division odds moving, I think the Browns win total was about 9. Now we're at 8.5 with the under heavily juiced. Maybe it could come back up if they do trade for a quarterback. Garoppolo would be an upgrade. I'm not the biggest Jimmy Garoppolo fan, but he's okay. He's better than Brissett. So we'll see if that happens. But either way, the biggest takeaway for me right now is, I think we've lost a value bet for season-long prop that I was really excited about. So when we found out Watson was going to Cleveland, I was really excited to bet the under on Nick Chubb's rushing yards for the year, because Kareem Hunt takes a lot of the workload from him, and the team is going to pass more with Watson as the quarterback. But now we've got Watson suspended and Hunt asking for a trade. We don't know if that's going to happen yet, right? But that is a possibility too. So I think really what's going to happen is the Browns are just going to run the ball to Nick Chubb a lot more. And it kind of ruins one of my favorite bets of the year, which I think was it was an under on an overhyped Nick Chubb, which I don't know what the reason for it was. Maybe everyone saw him deadlift and squat a couple times. Like there was a viral video of him working out, and then, people are just betting overs for that reason. So I think that everything's kind of corrected to the point where it's fair. Like the Bengals should be well ahead of the Browns in the division odds. The Browns should have a win total that expects them to go under 500 for the year. Like 8-9 is more likely than 9-8 based on the odds. So I think all of that is reasonable. But it's worth keeping an eye on. Like, do they make a move? Do they acquire a better quarterback? I would guess no, though, right? Like Watson's out 11 games. It's not an entire season.
Yeah.
Maybe they're expecting to be able to hang around the playoff race and then get him back and make a push that way.
And just to that point, like we're 2 weeks into the preseason. If you get Jimmy Garoppolo, like he may not even be ready for week one. I mean, it's right. You don't just, again, it's the NFL. People just seem to forget this, but like you can't just walk into an offense and be the starter, like, or at least be like at the top of your game, because it's a different playbook. So I think that even if they did get Garoppolo and the win total went up, I would still fade the Browns for that reason. I wouldn't expect Garoppolo to be really competent in this offense potentially until October. Just with where we're at in the season. So yeah, I think the Browns have made their bed. They brought in Brissett for this reason, and maybe they do get in Garoppolo and they panic or something. But like, I don't think that if this was like a month ago, it'd be a different story. But with where we are, man, like I think it's kind of we're past the point of no return. Like I don't know how much Jimmy Garoppolo can help this team if he comes, at least in the first like few weeks.
So you guys are both going below 8.5.
I would just say, just don't bet it. I mean, I like the Browns are still pretty talented. They could grind out a few wins, and who knows what happens when Watson gets back. I think like what Matt said, that the line is correct. I would agree with that. But if it does go up, maybe because of news, like I think that would probably be the opportunity where you jump on the under. Yeah,
like if the line was even money on both sides, I think the under is more likely to win than the over, but we're laying minus 140 now. Yeah. Like I think you kind of just stay away. I think the market has reacted appropriately to everything now. Like there was a lot of uncertainty for a while, but we have no more uncertainty now. So I think that it's kind of, we kind of agree here that it's just the dust has settled and there's not really much to do anymore, unfortunately.
We were looking, Matt, at those division odds before, and obviously Cleveland being our focus with this Sean Watson news, but does it surprise you in any way? Like Lamar's Lamar, I get it, but does it surprise you in any way that Baltimore is the favorite as opposed to Cincinnati?
I thought last year Lamar Jackson was just wildly underrated in the way people were talking about. I know Jeff and I argued about him in a bunch of different contexts. We had a game where I think it was like Lamar Jackson versus Aaron Rodgers, where the Ravens were home underdogs. Jackson didn't even end up playing that game, I think. So it didn't end up mattering, but whatever. I think like the Ravens were not getting a lot of respect from odds makers last year. So I don't think that's true anymore. Like I think the Ravens, if they had stayed healthy last year, were better than the Bengals. They just had massive injury problems. And this year we should see that normalize. Like the odds are close. They're both good teams. So I'm not saying the Ravens are way better than the Bengals or anything, but I'm not surprised necessarily to see this. Like maybe I would have expected the public to push the Bengals line a bit more because they're clearly the public team now. Everyone loves Joe Burrow. And I think no one likes Lamar Jackson at this particular moment. We'll see if he starts playing well, but I think it's a fairly easy case that the Ravens are better. But the Bengals could still certainly win this division too. Like these are two of the better teams in the league.
What about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens are a solid team, but you do feel like there's like the history. It's just like people don't want to give the Bengals a lot of credit. And I like Joe Burrow is the public guy, but it's not really factored into like the Bengals team bets. Like I would put these teams at a lot closer to even. And I don't think the Ravens are trash or anything. They definitely, I think they're going to be stronger in the secondary this year, but I do think they're a little bit overhyped in terms of like all these, what they've done. I know the injuries happened last year, but still they're getting a little bit long in the tooth in a couple places back there. And like, I'm just not sure if there's just like, this team is really like that good. The Bengals really improved their offensive line this year. That was their big deficit. They still got some strides to make on defense, but I think that defense also is potentially going to be just a little bit fiercer, like in the front line. So I think these teams are really close. Again, I'm not necessarily down on the Ravens, but I don't think the spread should be this close between them. Like, I still think even at plus 170, and I know you could get the Bengals at plus 210 like last week, actually probably yesterday. But I would take the Bengals here. I mean, I still think them being it reminds me of the Rams and the 49ers in that division. I haven't looked at what those odds are right now, but for the longest time, there was a pretty decent spread between those two teams. And I just think that the 49ers were the easy pick there. And it's very much the same with me. I don't think there's this big a spread between the Bengals and the Ravens. I think that you should take the Bengals given the odds right now.
Ravens plus 135, Bengals plus 170. To answer your question about the NFC West, the Rams at plus 125, the Niners plus 150.
Yeah, so that Rams 49ers has come down, but you're still, Rams or the 49ers still, still plus 150, still clear second favorites.
So what about DFS? And it doesn't even need to be daily, might be thinking about season long. A lot of people doing their drafts right around now. We're planning those in the next couple of weeks, obviously. If you're looking at Cleveland and the various weapons they have, Nick Chubb is certainly the guy that's going to stand out to most people. But if you're looking at that team and the receiving core, absolutely. What's your thought process and what's your thought process in a draft as it relates to a guy like Deshaun, Matt, who's, going to come back obviously at some point deep into the season when, your team might be gearing up for a playoff run, that type of thing. How are you attacking these guys from a fantasy perspective?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say like in any specific way without the context, because in a best ball format or in a season long league, like the amount of teams in the league, the amount of roster spots you have, the amount of like IR spots, how you can stash Watson, I think all of that is really relevant. Like Watson could become a pretty important fantasy quarterback down the stretch. I think in the early going, Nick Chubb gets a boost. And especially if Kareem Hunt gets traded, like he becomes one of the stud running backs to pay up for week after week in a DFS format. He becomes one of the better running backs for season long fantasy. I think he already is one of the top guys, but it'll just elevate his stock even more. The team that I'm most interested in, though, to like get away from the Browns for a second, as far as fantasy and as far as season long player props, is the Minnesota Vikings, who now have the Rams' former offensive coordinator, Kevin O'Connell, and presumably a much better like pass heavy play calling scheme than what they had last year. I mean, we talked about this on a bunch of football shows last year. Like the Vikings just run the ball on first down and run the ball on second down, and it's 3rd and 7 for Kirk Cousins, and he's just not well equipped to do that. But I expect the Vikings passing offense to be a lot better this year. And I think for fantasy, like they're going to end up being a top stack of mine probably for the first chunk of the season as people catch up to this. But for season long props, like Kirk Cousins' yardage total is too low. Justin Jefferson's, I think, is a little too low, but Adam Thielen's he's at 750 yards. So if he doesn't get hurt, that number, like, what am I missing there? Like, that seems a healthy Adam Thielen is 1,000-yard receiver. So I don't know if people just like not caught up to that fact. Is O'Connell maybe not going to pass as much as he did with the Rams? Like, what do you guys think there? Because I think the Vikings passing offense is really underrated.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think with Thielen, it's just injuries, right? Because he's getting up there in age. And I think like that's the total is, and you see that on a lot of injured players. Like Saquon Barkley is another one who, like, I don't like betting overs on running backs, but like he's got a 1,300 receiving rushing prop, which he smashed in like 13 games in his rookie year or something like that, or his second year. I can't remember, but it's ridiculously low. Like he will go over it with Brian Daboll as his head coach. And it's the same with Thielen. You're basically just betting on him staying on the field. But with Thielen, like, yeah, they were in an archaic offense, and Thielen would smash this if he'd just stay on the field. So these are the props where I just don't think there's that much action because people just don't bet the guys like Adam Thielen. They bet Jefferson and they bet Kupp, but there's not a bunch of people going in there like, oh yeah, where's my Adam Thielen prop? It's a great one to get on. I agree. 700 is ridiculously low. You should be Kirk Cousins' pass attempts should go up, pass the ball more on first and second down. Agree with the Vikings take. I think I have Justin Jefferson as my wide receiver 1. And then just quickly on the Browns, like the way to play the Browns is just ignore their wide receivers. Jacoby Brissett will throw to the tight ends. David Njoku is probably a good lay around value. And I mean, Nick Chubb, he's scared a little bit that like Brissett will take away some touchdowns. But I think the other thing with Chubb is if this team is decent, and they have a winning record with Brissett, it won't be because of Brissett. It'll be because Nick Chubb is like on pace for a ridiculous season. So I think there's actually a lot of upside with Nick Chubb. I think there's like a bad floor too, because the Browns could stink and the offense could stink. But like, I think that the ceiling with Chubb just went way up with the Watson news.
The thing that I'm just looking at the Browns depth chart, guys, and Matt, like, I mean, one, poor Amari Cooper. Like, if he wasn't already, heading in the wrong direction, toward the tail end there in Dallas, to now wind up in this situation for 3/4 of a year or 11 games or whatever it amounts to be without Deshaun Watson. On top of that, like, is it going to be double coverage? Like, who else are you even interested in throwing to in this offense, knowing even full well that Cooper is not what he once was? Like Anthony Schwartz, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Bell, Jamarcus Bradley. Like, it's a real who's who of who are you going to throw to?
Jamarcus Bradley was a stud in Showdown as a min-price player a couple times last year, putting up like 6 points at like $200.
What about the Donovan Peoples-Jones? I mean, like, that guy can. I mean, with Deshaun Watson, I actually had some interest in Donovan Peoples-Jones. He would have been a great Showdown play. But yeah, I mean, I think the answer is the Browns aren't going to throw the ball much. Like,
the interesting note on Cooper is he's the only Browns prop I think that's off the board right now. Among like all of the things that we've talked about with Chubb, even the win totals are back up, but there's no sign of Cooper's receiving prop because
there's nothing there.
That's probably the most directly impacted thing, right? Of all of the stuff. Like Nick Chubb will be a little better, but Cooper is going to be way worse because of this.
Great. Very quickly, because we do want to move on to golf and some other things. I do just want some quick thoughts from you both. Jeff, first on Chicago and Seattle Thursday night football preseason game coming up 8:00. It's 2.5 hours, not even away from that right now. Anything from a betting perspective on the DraftKings Sportsbook jumping out at you?
I mean, it's a pretty big total. I mean, the Bears offense looked pretty kind of terrible in week one. Justin Fields didn't do much. I think he got sacked a couple times. He'll play more. The Seahawks, though, no Drew Lock. So I don't even know who their third stringer is, but I think there's probably an opportunity here. Like, I think that the Bears, again, we're hitting key numbers here, but, the Bears are plus 3.5. I'd be interested. I'd even just take the Bears money line. I mean, I think that's fair. Fields second time out, second time with the new head coaches, should be looking to put a better foot forward. I don't think the Seahawks are going to stress Geno Smith just because, Drew Lock obviously isn't full. I don't think Geno Smith's pretty much locked in here, I think, as the starter, just because of the lack of prep time for Drew Lock right now. So yeah, I kind of like the Bears on the money line right here. I mean, this is a pretty big line, quite frankly, for preseason. And yeah, I mean, the Seahawks, I guess they look better in the week one, but like, it's preseason, their backup quarterback's out. I think that there's a bit of an edge with the Bears.
Matt, what about you?
Yeah, it's hard for me I don't know. I have a ton of baseball stuff to say, so I'll just leave it to Jeff and to you to cover the preseason NFL. Like, I'm ready for the season to start. That's my take. Week one, I'll have tons and tons of stuff. But yeah, I haven't been able to, I don't know. It's hard to follow it. There's so much you have to know as far as playing time. And it just has such a big impact. So like, certainly I think you can have an edge in preseason, but like, you need to know your stuff.
Jeff, it's near and dear to your heart, my friend. We got the BMW Championship, which is underway. Of course, round one today. Many guys are in the clubhouse, and not everyone just yet, but Keegan Bradley is the one-shot leader. Adam Scott right behind him. They're both done. You got Harold Varner. Shane Lowry is in there as well. Justin Thomas. Rory is actually doing really well. He's 5 under through 13. So he very well could be the round one leader when all is said and done. 2 strokes back right now. Any big takeaways from day one?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, this kind of sets up as a potential Rory romp. I mean, he had laid off the clubs for like 3 weeks, came in rusty, had a couple bad rounds, but like everything is back together. Just looking at his stats too, like, the driver for him wasn't good last week, but again, it's just a different course here. Looks like the putter's actually really been heating up for him today. So, I mean, that's something to potentially take away. Maybe that putter cools down. And I mean, look, at this point, he just made another birdie, as I'm like legitimately speaking. He's plus 320. You're not jumping on Rory McIlroy at plus 320. Not with guys like Justin Thomas down there. If there was a player I'd be looking to get on right now, it would be Morikawa. He's at plus 1,600. You may even see that number on Morikawa jump to like plus 1,800 if Rory gets one more birdie here or two. So that's something to consider. But Morikawa played good last week. 4 under starting round. That's what we want from him. And just, from where we are in the odds, like if Rory's just kind of having a hot putting round and maybe the ball striking isn't quite where it needs to be, he'll fall down, and we'll see Morikawa kind of grind him out over the weekend. So yeah, there's potentially opportunity, but we have a lot of big players up here at the top, unfortunately. So, you're not going to be getting huge numbers on guys. It really does feel like a week where one of these guys, Thomas, Rory, Xander's up there too. It's probably going to be one of these players. So I don't have any huge long shots that you should jump on. It's just, it's setting up as a week where we're probably going to get like maybe a heads up battle between a couple of elite guys. And either you had him pre-event, maybe you jump on a guy like Morikawa. That's definitely interesting to me. I may actually be doing that because for some reason I didn't bet him pre-event this week. But yeah, right now we got to see where Rory finishes. Kind of hope he gets in at like 8 under, and then you get a better number on Morikawa.
You were talking about John Rahm outright yesterday on the show. How do you feel about him right now? He's plus 9,000.
The last I looked, he was at like 2 over. He's still at 2 over. He just hasn't done anything today. The putter is just not working for him. It's kind of been the story of his season. The ball striking's been okay. He's still really dominant off the tee, but like the putter just so hit or miss with him. I don't know. You need a big turnaround. Like, it's a no-cut event, so we have seen guys make big comebacks. Like, I mean, Will Zalatoris started at 1 over last week, and then shot 2 over or 7 under, in the second round. So, if there was a player down here I'd be looking at, it would probably be Rahm. Again, I mean, he played really well last week. And just looking through the list of players down here, yeah, I mean, you could think about it. It's plus 9,000, but again, I'd wait till the end of the round. If Rory gets to 8, that number could easily jump to plus 10,000. There's no rush here. I don't think Rahm's gonna end with a huge birdie streak. I think he's only got a couple holes left. Cameron Young's another guy you could potentially jump on at big odds. Again, we have seen some of these players make big comebacks. Not sure where he's at right now. Are we getting any break on him? He's only at plus 3,500. So, I mean, again, wait till Rory finishes. Maybe that number jumps. That's not really big enough for me. Rahm's interesting, but you're betting on John Rahm's putter heating up, which it just hasn't done all season. So,
well, we've only got about, 10, 12 minutes left in the show, guys. We want to do a little something we like to call show and tell. Having a little fun this week with producer Eamon away on vacation. We're reinventing the show so that he comes back, doesn't even recognize the place. We're redecorating in his absence. So we're going to take you guys, you, the analysts and the viewers to summer school. All right. We're going to talk a little baseball, mix in some NFL if we have time, some, on top of that as well, and some NHL if we can as well. But let's start baseball. That's near and dear to your heart, Matt Meiselman, especially when it's right there in the thrust of the season. And basically, we need you to educate Jeff on baseball, which is sort of an embarrassing thing for me to even say, because Jeff used to be one of our featured baseball analysts until, we had enough people that he didn't have to do every single sport, and we could actually get people in line with their specialties. So for people that have been around us long enough to remember that, can you now teach Jeff all the things he should have been telling the people then?
How much time do we have left for this?
I'd love to tell you 5. No, you take your time. Go ahead.
All
Look,
right.
I don't want to rush the process of education. It's very important.
Okay, absolutely. So I guess at this point in the season, there's like a couple styles of betting that I'm using to find value, like that are different from the beginning of the year, because the beginning of the season, I guess you get some undervalued and overvalued things from off-season hype and narratives, like kind of where we're at with football, coaching changes or like spring training, velocity increases, decreases, whatever. This point in the year, there's not as much of that. Like, we kind of know what everyone is. So in terms of like money line bets, my biggest source for finding edges is just the playoff team with their number 5 starter on the mound going against a non-playoff team with a better starter. And this is the combination that creates basically all of the underdog value that I ever find in the summer months. The best one for that tonight is the Royals. I think the Rays have Luis Patino on the mound. He's their worst starting pitcher. They just sent him down to the minors. He's getting called back up. And the Royals are going with sort of a bullpen game, I think, but also a relevant thing to teach for baseball. Bullpen games are often better on a bad team because a lot of these starting pitchers are just not very good. But if you take a bunch of average pitchers and they only have to go 1 or 2 innings at a time, You just get better per inning results because they can throw harder if they don't have to be in the game as long. They can focus more, whatever. So the bullpen game for the Royals, I think we're getting Max Castillo probably for a few innings, maybe Brad Keller for a few innings. The Royals were plus 180 this morning. It's only plus 160 now. I still think this is too long. The Rays are not that good. And I've talked about the Rays a lot recently. They have a ton of injuries. Wander Franco, Manny Margot, Harold Ramirez. They had to acquire a bunch of like cast off outfielders like Roman Quinn and Jose Siri. So the names are not that important. It's just like injuries on good teams, bad starting pitchers on good teams. The Rays are not actually a good team. They just have a good record, at least as they're currently constructed. So that's kind of the thing I'm looking for as far as money lines are concerned. And then with prop betting, a lot of what I've gotten into recently is trying to figure out which guys have huge pinch hit risks so that one, to bet like their unders on hits and runs before the game starts, but also to be able to live bet it. The Dodgers have gone super platoon heavy. So like if you're looking for a live betting opportunity and Joey Gallo's been, by the way, just incredible since the Yankees traded him, which is really fun. But as soon as a left-handed pitcher enters a close game, Gallo's done playing. Like they'll just pinch hit for a righty and take him out. So if you're on top of that and like following along for the game and you're like watching it on TV, you see a lefty's warming up in the pen, Gallo's due up in the next inning. Like you can just bet the under on his hits, runs, total bases, whatever, and just expect they're going to take him out. So that's a very extreme example, but I think Estevan Florial, who's a Yankees prospect in the lineup tonight, he's going to see the same fate. They have a platoon advantage for him against Jose Barrios, righty pitcher, lefty hitter. And as soon as the Blue Jays lefty comes in the game, he's done playing, unless the Yankees are up, a bunch of runs and they don't need to do it. But like, I think there's a good chance that we see Florial bat only twice tonight. So to give a specific pick, he's minus 160 to not have any runs tonight. That's my favorite angle for him. You're laying odds, but like this should be north of minus 200. So baseball's gotten weird. I think that's become apparent in what I'm saying here. Like I'm really stretching to find these like strange bets, but I think there's a lot there if you're just like following the sport closely.
I'm looking at Jeff in our Zoom, and it's you see it's summer school for us, right? So as we do this, so if the people that sit in the front of the class that are really interested and hand up and call, then the back of the class are just totally checked out. Jeff's sort of sitting in the middle of the classroom, just the occasional look up, see what's going on, back down, nodding. Maybe I don't see him writing anything down, Matt.
He's not taking notes. To be fair, though, I gave only a few things that were like very general and simple, and then a bunch of stuff that's just like so out there that I wouldn't expect anyone, maybe just other hardcore baseball fans. I just had to kind of say them, but that wasn't for him. That was just for me to be able to talk about weird Yankees props.
Getting weird is our producer Samir giving us a sort of a paraphrased My Cousin Vinny reference. Joey Gallo's dead. I'm Joey Gallo.
Props, you got to get weird, man. I mean, that's the opportunity in baseball, right? Finding matchups and guys who might be having a better opportunity or worse opportunity because of it. So, yeah, I mean, I brings me back to the days when I used to consistently bet and talk about baseball. It's a good sport for it too, especially in summer. But unfortunately or fortunately, I cover golf now. So.
Do you think we have those sorts of live betting opportunities in football? Because I spent a lot of last season looking for stuff like a running back gets hurt mid-game and you bet the backup to score a touchdown. But it's hard, I think.
It is. It's definitely harder, but they're out there. I remember one week when Tyreek Hill was like off the field and like Byron Pringle was playing, and it was clear that the Chiefs had started to target him. And you like Byron Pringle, first touchdown score was like still up on the board at like 80-1. And there is opportunities like that live in game where, either a team is making some kind of lineup adjustment because of an injury, or it's just like, they're featuring a guy. And if you can find that and look for like live props, they're out there, but it's, you have to be quicker. Obviously, like football is a faster paced game than baseball and things happen really quick, but yeah, they're out there. Absolutely. You should be, looking for opportunities. Like
I'll just quickly give my favorite example of one I hit from last year where I was watching the Bengals and Joe Mixon had gotten the ball like 6 straight times on the opening drive and they crossed the 30-yard line, or maybe it's 40-yard line. And I saw him like start to jog to the sideline. Like he clearly needed a breather. So I just went on and I bet Samaje Perine. He was like 14-1 to be the first touchdown scorer. And on literally the next play, they threw him a screen pass and he scored.
Yeah.
I don't know that you can make it that easy every time, but that's what I'm trying to recreate.
Those are legitimately the things you look for. It's similar when I hit Pringle. It was just like, okay, for some reason Byron Pringle is like starting, and like he's already got like 3 targets in the game. And then on their next drive, I just said, oh, he's still out there for first touchdown scorer. And lo and behold, they hit him on like a 30-yard touchdown. So it's not always going to work like that. But obviously, like if you see a team shift usage and a player who's just up there in odds, like again, it's just like hanging odds. Obviously, there's always opportunities. So.
Well, we only have a few minutes left. We have to move relatively quickly with this. Matt, you've obviously taught well. Jeff, I hope you've learned a couple things in the process. But now let's flip the script a little bit. Jeff, educate Matt on preseason betting in the NFL. This is not Matt's area of interest by any stretch. So you need to tell him what he needs to be doing to really get involved here.
I mean, it's pretty simple. Like preseason NFL is basically just about grinding your tail off. You get a list of all the beat writers and you figure out who's playing and you jot it down and you try and take advantage of it. It was, week 1, it was pretty clear that like Daniel Jones was going to be playing more than a series. So there was some opportunity there. Again, I brought up the fact that like Drew Lock is out. That's not really baked into the Seahawks number at all, it feels like. But there's going to be other opportunities around the NFL too. But, preseason NFL is really digging into the news, which is kind of nice if you're good at doing that. And then obviously just factoring in, how teams' rotations are going to go and also who the backups are. Like you've got to know your players. So you got to know the rotation. A team like the Cowboys is a great example. They don't put any quality into their backup quarterbacks. Like they never have, but you've got other teams like Pittsburgh, who's obviously got 3 deep at QB. That makes a big difference. So just knowing the tendencies of teams, the rotations, it's not overly difficult. It's simple. It just requires a lot of time and effort. But if you do it, I do think, like, as Matt said, like there is definitely an edge to be had in doing preseason DFS, preseason NFL. People are doing it more and more. So maybe the edges are shrinking, but it's still there. I know the first week we got Baltimore as like, he wasn't even that big a favorite, a team who just basically acts like preseason is the Super Bowl. We got the Giants going up against the Patriots. So the Patriots made that game really close, but if you met, Giants money line came through. So there's opportunities. Just, you got to grind tail off and really know where to look. Twitter's a great resource. Just get a list of beat write reporters. I think Adam Leviton still has a public one. You can basically just go download on his Twitter account. I have one, but I think it's locked because I'm just selfish and I don't let anyone use it but me. But if you DM me nicely, I'll give it to you.
There you go.
Just listening to you talk about this already has me hyped for the basketball season. I know it's not the same sport, but like following the news, like you're speaking my language. This is just so much fun to do better when it's a real sport, like regular season that you care about. But nonetheless, like whatever it is, value's value. I don't care when it's
And the thing about NFL preseason is it's just so short that it's hard to like invest a lot. Like if you're just covering NFL, obviously that's what you're gonna do. But if you're doing like multiple sports, kind of like we do, like I will definitely grind some weeks with NFL, but I don't like put in, like, I don't like cut off myself from the world for a month or anything. I did used to do that, but not, now I just kind of dabble in here.
Jeff and I were talking the other day about just how miserable and exciting both that week 1 of the NFL is going to be for our wallets, for our entertainment, for all the above. Before we go, like I said, it's a Slate Sports edition. We've already gotten into baseball and football and golf. Let's talk a little hockey. Nazem Kadri, Jeff, is he's got a new deal, 7-year deal with the Calgary Flames after the Islanders missed out. Looking at the tweet there, you see the facts, and obviously the guy's coming off a championship with Colorado, a few years with the Avs, coming off a career year. He had 87 points last year. So you tell me, what's this mean for the sports book and for futures odds as it relates to Calgary? You get Kadri, but obviously let's not forget lost Johnny Gaudreau.
Yeah, and Sean Monahan probably gonna get traded as well. The Flames are trying to replace these guys on the fly. I think that the contract is going to look bad for them soon. You're typically giving guys 7-year contracts after the age of 30, especially coming off a career season. Kadri smashed his career best last year. I don't know if you're going to get better than that from Kadri. But typically these long contracts for 30-year-olds, they do not work out in the NHL. It's not even like sometimes they don't work out. They just don't work out. I think that the Flames really just trying to kind of put their fingers in the dikes, and maybe it'll work for a year, but I would, to Chuck and Gaudreau, those guys were really good. And I know Huberdeau's good and Kadri's solid, but like you get any regression from Kadri, it's not going to be the same. I don't know how Jonathan Huberdeau is going to fit into Daryl Sutter's system either. Like I got question marks there. So no, I fade the Flames next year. They are in an easy division, but like Vegas is also going to be better. They're still, the Kings potentially going to be better. Like I look at that plus 3,500 on like the Kings. I'd rather take that. So I think that the Flames are a team who they're trying. And I think a lot of people are looking at this and be like, oh, the Flames could be better. They get any regression in goal either. Jakob Markstrom carried this team for certain parts of the year. I just, I don't like it personally. It's nothing, it's not a biased thing either. Again, 31 7-year contract. If this doesn't work out, this will go south real fast for Calgary.
All right, guys. Well, that's a show. We covered a lot of good stuff, obviously, and we invite you to go back and check out Rewatch on YouTube if you missed anything. A lot of the stuff is obviously still relevant before various sports and lines and everything locked tonight for football, for baseball, for whatever else. But tomorrow, Slate will come your way right around the same time. You will have LaMarca and Bukes along talking baseball. Of course, the Sweat in the morning at 11 o'clock Eastern. Don't miss that. But Meiselman, Moose, thank you both for coming in. Drew, our technical director, Samir might have already walked out the door. Here's the vocal check at Fenway down the street for Bad Bunny. He's got to go. Everyone's got to go. Thanks for being with us. I'm Adam Kaufman. See ya.